You cannot use your feelings as a measurement of truth.
Dr. Tony Evans says real truth is true no matter how we feel about it.
God is the only one that has all the information. Everybody else is ever learning it.
This is The Alternative with Dr. Tony Evans, author, speaker, and senior pastor of Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship in Dallas, Texas. There are all different kinds of truth floating around in the world today. The problem is that they don't live up to their name. Let's join Dr. Evans as he takes us to Ephesians chapter 6 for a look at how to recognize the real thing.
When we're going somewhere, we assess the occasion to determine what attire is appropriate for the particular place we're going or the event that we are a part of. We probably wouldn't wear shorts to a wedding or suits to a barbecue because the attire does not typically fit the occasion. Paul the Apostle speaks to the church at Ephesus and Christians everywhere that there is an attire necessary for us to wear if we're going to be successful in this thing called the Christian life. The reason he wants you to know about this attire, to dress for spiritual success, is because we are in a battle, a war, that's not fundamentally flesh and blood. People are not your ultimate problem. People, flesh and blood, are merely conduits for something else that's operating in the invisible realm that causes us to have challenges in the visible realm. So if you want to address something that's visible and physical, you must address its spiritual and invisible antecedent. You must investigate that which has preceded it. He says, our battle, the things that cause you woes, conflicts, consternation, and conflict, don't start with people. People may have been the vehicle for it to be made manifest in the physical visible, but they're not the root, they're the fruit. And while you can't ignore the fruit, our problem is that we skip the root. He says your basic problem is that we wrestle against principalities and powers and world forces, verse 12, of this darkness, against spiritual forces of wickedness in the spiritual realm, heavenly places. Many of the things that we deal with in our lives, because they come to us in flesh and blood kinds of scenarios, that is, things that the five senses can interact with, we spend most of our time and energy using the physical to fix the physical because we haven't gone back to remember that there was a spiritual cause. So the spiritual doesn't get the attention that the physical gets when the spiritual is the reason for the physical. He says over and over again, stand firm. That means don't go anywhere. He says, stand firm, and what he's meaning by that is Jesus has already accomplished the victory. So don't leave him to fix what's wrong. Stay with him because he's already been raised higher than all authorities and principalities and powers. He's already seated on the right hand of the Father. In fact, you are seated with him. Ephesians 2:6. He says, don't wander away. Don't be like a child at the park. Don't wander away. Get one of them leashes that parents have. Stand firm. Don't depart from Jesus Christ and what he has accomplished, because therein is the victory. He says, and I'm going to give you attire, some clothes to wear that will fit the occasion for waging victorious spiritual warfare, since your battle emanates from and it is initiated in the spiritual realm. He then says in verse 13, take up the full armor of God. Don't get partly dressed. Don't just put on a few pieces. Take up the complete wardrobe. so that you will be able to resist in the evil day. The evil day is the day when your number comes up. That's the day when you are attacked. That's when all hell breaks loose in your life. That's the evil day. And everybody has a day. And many of us have been through days. And having done everything to stand firm, that is, having put on all the clothing, all the armaments, you will be able to hold your ground during this time of attack. The spiritual realm's power, the negative elements of the spiritual realm, Satan and demons, operate. But the way they operate is not the way most people think they operate. This realm operates fundamentally by deception. They cannot defeat you with power because their power was addressed by Jesus. So you really can't say the devil made you do anything. You can leave that with Flip Wilson. That is not a true statement now. He can't make you do anything. But what he can do is to trick you, dupe you, deceive you, mess with your mind so that he gets you to do it. And once he can get you to do it, he can piggyback off of your doing it. So that it appears that he is controlling you when actually you've handed him a stick and he's just hitting you with it. He's fundamentally a deceiver. The Bible describes him as an angel of light, an imitator. The Bible describes him as the father of lies. He is the great deceiver. Eve did not eat the fruit because he took the apple or pear or whatever it was off the tree and stuffed it into her mouth. He did something we're going to talk about in a moment. He got inside her head. And when he got inside her head, she picked the fruit. And she ate the fruit. And so that's how it always works. The power of the devil is deception. The power of the devil is not overpowering. Now, he wants you to take the full armor of God, and he lists 6 pieces of armor. He has the one we're going to talk about in just a moment, the belt of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, verse 15, the feet shod with the gospel of peace, the shield of faith, the helmet of salvation, and finally, verse 17, the sword of the Spirit. Then we will conclude with, how do you put it on? Okay? But first he tells us what to put on, and he lists 6 pieces of attire. He divides the 6 pieces of attire into 2 sets of 3. The first 3 are introduced with the verb to be. He says having. That's a derivative of the verb to be. To be means a state of being. The last 3, he switches the verb. He doesn't say having, to be. He says taking. So he flips verbs. What's the difference? The first 3 you keep with you always because it's your state. In other words, you never take it off. The last 3 you pick up as the occasion calls for it. You go take it. It's like if you go to a baseball game. The ball players always have on their uniform during the game, but they pick up their glove as needed. Or the bat when it's time for them to go to bat. In other words, certain things they don't mess with. Other things are available when the occasion calls for it. So the first 3 things we go over, you are to never leave home without it. The first 3 things we go over is a state of being. That is, this is just how you roll. It's your orientation. It's your flow. You don't ever take it off. The last 3 you keep near and you pick up as the occasion calls for it. He introduces us to the first piece of attire that gives you victory in the spiritual realm, which affects how things work in the physical realm. And he calls it, gird up your loins with truth. Verse 14 says, gird up your loins with truth. The first thing that you must keep with you at all times is a truth belt.